I don't know if using they them for someone who prefers like newer pronouns would cause like much discomfort. Maybe. But also the main argument would be optics. So like I don't want to have to bite the bullet when some conservative says like, oh, like I hate that there are like 108 like or infinite genders or whatever they say,
They're
150
not
genders.
genders though. That's still non-binary. It's just different pronouns.
Wait, no, they would
Like
be.
what
So,
gender roles are associated with people that uses they them? It's a
oh,
gender.
that
Right?
doesn't
Have
mean.
gender roles.
So that doesn't mean there's gender
Well, what is
roles
a gender
associated with
then?
them. Well, gender. Well, so a gender is generally like some sort of like set of characteristics that be
Yeah.
associated
So
with
what
a
are some of
pronoun.
the set of characteristics associated
Would
with
be specific
they
to the
them?
person.
Oh, so it's like an individual. So it's not really like a gender then, because genders are socially constructed. So a single individual wouldn't have a gender like that then, right?
What do you mean by socially constructed?
So like it would be placed on. It wouldn't be like a single person decides what it means to be a man, but we have a general idea of a society as what it means to be a man. So things like strong or like I don't know, you know what I mean. I think so. Like there are some gender roles that are kind of like an emergent property of our society rather than like something that everyone decides on. So I don't think that there's any collective idea of the gender roles that a person that uses like they,
Oh,
them
this doesn't necessarily need to be like. Do you believe like someone can have a private language, like as in like between two people?
Yeah, probably.
Okay, cool. So like the gender would just be like they're asserting a new gender associated with this pronoun, and then anyone they would come in contact with that would now be their new gender, and that's also how people with neo pronouns tend to describe it. So these neo pronouns, like if you actually look on like LGBT websites, they'll describe a gender along with these neo pronouns. So for example, there's actually one with autism. So hold on.
If they think that every pronoun, I just think, oh, man, no,
List of genders. LGBTQ. There's
I
a
think it's just
wiki.
non-binary people, isn't this, or no?
Well, that's not how people describe it. That's not how people with who use neo pronouns seem to describe it. I could be wrong, or there could be some amount that don't do this. But every time I look at these things, it seems to be that they're creating new genders that they're associating.
The first three links were neopronoun lgbta.wiki.org. Describe them as pronouns for non-binary people. mypronouns.org/neopronouns describe them as.
Well, non-binary would be an umbrella, but this doesn't necessarily mean like non-binary isn't like. Well, I would describe it as like a gender, but like it doesn't seem to be how they're using it. So non-binary would just be a gender that doesn't fit. So non-binary is genders that doesn't fit in the binary. Now, I would say it should just be the one gender, which is a gender. And then of course there would be man, woman currently, and the ones we would want. Those are the ones we want to abolish.
I don't know, dude. I haven't you can link a source here. Like, every single source I've said, like this one says directly, the name or pronoun someone goes by does not necessarily indicate anything about a person's gender or other identity.
Just necessarily,
but gender neutral. So meant to be indicate a transgender or non-binary person. A person who goes by neopronouns could actually be a man, woman, both, or neither. But I would say
sure, that's possible. But we're talking about social constructs here, so we're talking about how people actually use them. So here, let me try and find this like wiki that's referring to. Fuck, we were going through it. Is Blah here? Blah, do you remember this? You were going through it on stream. Can you find this for me?
Sure.
Okay. Like if they're actually asserting that every single person that uses different pronouns is a totally different gender, then that's dumb. But I just thought they were just all gender neutral pronouns. So I didn't specify anything about the gender.
Wait, why would it? Okay, what would be the utility of using these pronouns?
Oh yeah, just comfort. Like they don't feel comfortable. Like same reason that you would use like a regular trans person's pronouns.
The reason I would use a regular trans person's pronouns is because there's a load of empirical data showing that causes them like extreme harm.
So would be the same.
Oh, not necessarily, no. Because like non-binary people don't often have, or don't. I think they don't often have gender dysphoria. I think that's relatively rare within non-binary people. Obviously, with them being non-binary doesn't mean you don't have gender dysphoria, but it's more rare. But I don't think gender dysphoria would be sparked by not using neopronouns if you use they them. So the reason that it seems like any sort of gender dysphoria would be sparked isn't because you're using the improper pronoun when it comes to binary people. It's because you're using the pronoun that specifically has certain ties to them that is against their gender, against what they identify, and things that they have trauma with. Because that's really what gender dysphoria seems to be. It seems to be some amount of trauma. And let me know when you find that. Oh, sure. Oh, you yeah, you found it.
Specifically on autigender. It has a broader section on all neurogenders.
Okay, so yeah, so there'd be two different conversations we'd have to have. You mentioned gender fluid. Now, gender fluid doesn't necessarily like associate with neopronouns, so we can talk about both. So we can talk about neopronouns first, and then we can talk about stuff
but I
like.
think gender fluid is dumb, and like probably autigender is dumb too if it's linked to like autism, which would be like a biological thing.
Whoa, I'm autigender. Calm down. Damn, ouch.
Well, Owen, the reason you think it's dumb is because it can only be understood in the context of being autistic.
Yes. Oh, okay, I got you now. Okay. I agree with that statement, by the way. Like, yeah, it's a dumb because it's saying there's something like biological about gender.
Yeah, sure. But anyway, so there's sort of like this gender accelerationist idea, which is like instead of like everyone identifying as they them, and that being the way to get to gender abolishment, which is the thing that I would want to do. Like I want to get it through like everyone identifying as they them, and more and more people like doing that. They call it like gender accelerationism, where they want to make gender so absurd that therefore gender means nothing, and that means like people having their own gender. So, for example, Block can like send you the recording. I had an example. I had a debate with Ferlado where we talked about this, and he shows, and this came up in the debate about neopronouns, and this is how he's trying to get the gender abolishment. So he's actually associating this person, and I've heard other people say this as well, where they're actually associating like neopronouns with creating like new genders. So
I totally disagree. I would be like a gender reformist. Yeah, I'm not an accelerationist.
So, but within like within supporting like neopronouns, you would be supporting like this movement, at least like in some way. Like you would be perpetuating with some way, and like you could bite that bullet.
No, I think it's too small. Yeah, I don't think it matters. I think like what will happen will be it'll be like a feminist thing. It'll be just like a major, like another thing like that. Like it's not going to be this. I really doubt it. You know, I know like 2 people that use them. So it's like me, like this would just be like supporting like 2 or 3 people, and by like supporting, it's just like just using their.
Okay. So what's your claim exactly?
Oh, that it's just pretty harmless for the most part, just using neopronouns. I don't.
So your claim would not be to advocate for it.
I would say just like. Yeah, you don't have to advocate for it, but if someone tells you that these are their pronouns, then you should be using
them. Okay, I would explicitly advocate against it. As in, like, I would say, like, you should not advocate for it, would be my main claim. Like, not that just like, oh, I'm not going to. I think you should not, because it's optically poison, and I think if anyone ever brings it up, like, conservative, you should just, like, say, yeah, it's dumb as fuck. Would you agree with that?
I think the optics are... I don't know, like bad, but like I said, like I don't know anyone, like I don't really know many people that do it.
That's the thing. That's the reason why I don't think we really.
I'm still not really convinced, to be honest, that these are all just different. These are just like non-binary pronouns. They're not genders. Like
they're not necessarily, but this is how like some amount of people at least use it.
Every single thing I said just says that they're just gender-neutral pronouns. And that's fine with me. Like I think that using any kind of gender neutral pronouns is pushing against a binary, especially when
to some degree, but to some degree, they them would just be better because like that would just be the goal, and it also isn't optically poison.
I would agree that they them would be better, but it doesn't mean that it's bad to use.
That is what that means, and like
no, fuck that. I'm a threshold utilitarian now. Anything above like 90% is fine.
Fuck you.
No, fuck it. Anything that's like No, because I care about abolishing gender, which means reforming gender roles so that there wouldn't be like gender roles associated with pronouns, and this does that in the same way that they them does. This is the exact same thing.
Oh no, well no, not in the exact same way because one is optic poison, one is not. Oh, and also just more difficult.
That's the only difference.
Well, it's not the only difference. It's also more different. Much more difficult to use. Like, so people have trouble with they them. That it's even more trouble if we have to use like Caesar pronouns. Like, and that's some amount of harm. I'm not gonna say like it's...
I don't think they're ever going to be widely adopted though, or anything. It's just going to be like a few people.
Oh yeah, so those few people would be causing like that like little amount of harm. Anime sexual, that's good.
I do have a point. I don't want to like interrupt Owen's debate practice though.
I don't think the harm of like using them is that great. Like I don't know, it doesn't seem that difficult.
Oh, but you would accept it's some amount of harm though, right?
Yeah, probably less than not using them though in this case as well.
So you would say like it's less wait. Why do you think they can't just use they them?
Oh, because they don't want to.
Oh, so they can. They're just choosing not to.
I don't know. They probably. I don't know. The only thing Piper said earlier that people feel uncomfortable using they them. I don't know.
Okay. Okay, yeah. So I'll just say it's optically poison. We shouldn't advocate for it. We should. I think you should advocate against it. Okay, wait. I won't waste it like that. Like saying like that was kind of a personal opinion meme. Yeah. You should advocate against it, as in like you should make sure that people are not using this and are using it as minimally as possible. And the reason for that would be just so like they don't like even if it's going to be used like very minimally, that's still a harm. Just like killing one person is like a very minimal effect in the world. It's still a harm. So advocating for people using this or supporting this without at least trying to convince them in some way would actually push it so the optics would be worse for the left in general for every single person using the neopronoun. Because even if you're going to say that like some amount of people are going to be smart enough not to use it, there's going to be some amount of people that are going to be dumb enough to try and push it onto everyone, and that's going to make the left look worse.
Yeah, I don't think I have anything against the optics argument.
Okay. So here would be my prescription. My prescription would be like I would use they them automatically. And then like if they say like no, use this, I would argue with them for a bit about it and try and get them not to. And try and see like if there was like any like real utility there, any like logic as to the reason as to why like this should be used. It could come down to like this makes me feel really bad, and like if I talked to enough and like said like hey like empirically, hey like all these people seem to be feeling like gender dysphoria when like you use they them like sure and if it came down to like I argued with them and I couldn't convince them and it seemed like it was causing them the great harm, like I would end up like using neopronouns for them specifically.
Yeah, I don't know. I just feel like it's fine to use them. It doesn't seem to enforce any gender roles, which is the main thing that I'm against. The optics, I don't think, are going to be a huge
well,
part of it.
Enforces some amount of gender roles because some amount of people. So some amount of people believe that like you want to accelerate gender, you want to create new genders. So within
so what roles did those genders have?
Oh, the roles would be individual.
Oh, so that's the same. What's the difference between that and not having like roles like everyone having their own individual gender roles?
Because you would. It doesn't seem like the problem is like it doesn't seem like you would get there through that.
I agree. Yeah.
Yeah. So that would be my problem. It doesn't seem like you would get there through that, and like that would like just cause harm to the movement.
Okay, so if people are seriously advocating for like gender accelerationism, then I would advocate if you could show me that like people using neopronouns are commonly like supporting a gender accelerationist viewpoint, then I say we should advocate against it.
Well, yeah, I mean, I would say I can show you that there's some amount of people doing it. Now I actually don't have data, but there's some amount of people doing this. There's a Ferlado debate. I can show you logs and VGG of at least like 2 or 3 people. Now, obviously, it doesn't prove that like everyone using neopronouns is, but these are the arguments that people seem to be using for neopronouns. Is a gender accelerationist memes.
Yeah, I think it's really dumb.
Okay.
I literally have never heard of gender accelerationism before this conversation, though.
Oh, okay. Yeah, Philato talked about it. There's VGT logs of Lumi talking about it.
Oh,
And like other people, like I think Mythaldu, the dumb cunt. She.
I know them.
What?
I know them from Xander Halls.
Oh, I thought you said you didn't know them. I was so happy for you. And then it all went down the
The cat
pipe.
lady.
Yeah, the cat lady, exactly. But anyway, she talks about gender accelerationism using neuropronouns. But anyway, yeah. So yeah, it seems like. Oh yeah. So you would accept that, like, you would be in supporting like neuropronouns, like you would be supporting to some degree gender accelerationism. That idea, because like so for
are there any like trans people that believe in like gender accelerationism?
Lumi's a trans person, Mythaldu's a trans person.
What pronouns do they use?
Oh, funny enough, they just use she, her.
Okay, so don't you think by using those pronouns, you're also supporting this to an extent?
Am I supporting gender? Oh yes, it would just be worth it. Because there's actual empirical evidence.
Oh no, you'd be like, so if you were to use like wait, like, but you're saying by using pronouns or neopronouns, you'd be supporting people that believe in gender accelerationism, but it would be the same with all pronouns because people believe this with all pronouns, so it wouldn't be exclusive to just neopronouns.
Wait, so what? Okay, so your meme is that like, oh yes, it would just be a matter of like how much harm is it causing, whatnot. So the meme would be like that you're causing extreme harm if you don't actually use like proper pronouns for a trans person. This has been demonstrated over and over, and I don't think you would contest that. It doesn't seem to be the case, or there's just like no evidence. I don't see why it'd be the case that using they them for these people who want to use neopronouns would cause that amount of harm. And also, you always have to think that like the neopronouns is a minority of a minority of a minority of a minority. So meaning that like you always have to think about like when you're actually perpetuating like certain bad things. Like I wouldn't really care about the N-word if it was like 5 people. Like I just don't care. So in the same
yeah, I wouldn't like I said, I wouldn't necessarily advocate for neopronouns. I think you should use they them. I think it's neutral if you want to use them.
Oh,
like, I don't think
yeah.
you're supporting. I don't think it's that harmful.
But we're talking about levels of harm. So using the proper pronouns for like trans people or binary trans people specifically, but also non-binary to some degree. But that's a separate point. But let's focus on binary trans people. That's been shown over and over to cause like huge amounts of harm in general. And that's also a large portion of the population. 1 to 2% is a very big portion of the population. And anytime you're actually like doing something that would perpetuate like a bad thing, you have to think about how many people it affects, and that multiplies the damage you'll be doing with that perpetuation. Does that make sense? So that'd be the two distinctions I would make between like using proper pronouns for binary people and using neopronouns for people who want to use neopronouns.
Yeah. Yeah, I think if you could demonstrate that a significant number of people were doing this for gender accelerationist memes, I would agree. But right now, it just feels like another they them. Like I just don't care. Like it doesn't feel like that.
Well, you already admitted it's like optically poison.
I don't know. Like I feel like I could argue with people that it's not a gender. It's just a pronoun.
Oh, but this becomes much more difficult than like an argument for like they them. Because they them is at least like something that's been used for like years as a singular and stuff like that. And like non-binary genders have existed in like societies like previously.
Oh yeah, but there's tons of languages that have tons of non-binary pronouns. There's like languages. I think Nigerian has like 7 to 10 gender pronoun languages as well, different pronouns. So like it's like neopronouns are not necessarily new either. Like they are, but like the ones that we use in English are, but other cultures and languages will also have a variety of different.
Sure, it's just intuitively like ridiculous. Would you contest that?
Yeah, but you could say the same thing about being trans, I think, too.
Oh yes, but it just
Or,
affects
like-
a much larger portion of the population. So that's why I would push for trans people, and like I wouldn't push for this.
Yeah. Like I said, like I wouldn't necessarily push for this. I don't think I would try to argue with someone to use they them. Like I don't really see the difference, I guess, still. Like even if I'm gonna have to argue with right wingers no matter what about the number of genders because the cat's already out of the bag. So I don't really see what the harm is in using the pronouns if someone wants to. Like I wouldn't argue with someone to switch to they them.
Oh well, so would you accept the optics argument?
Yes, probably, but I also think that it's already like too late. Like we're gonna have to arguing against this anyway, like regardless.
Oh well, no. You can just say you can just brush it off. Like you can just brush it off. Like I don't care about neopronouns.
I guess you could do that. But I don't know.
That also makes it seem like a lot more like sensible, opposed to like for example like the Steven Crowder memes. Like I used to watch a lot of his videos. He did one which was like or multiple that was like there are only two genders, and each time he got like a trans person, some dumbass trans person, unrelated to them being trans, blah blah blah. No little preface. But dumbass trans person who was like he was like, oh, how many genders are there? And they're like, there's infinite. And that just seems ridiculous. And then it's like, oh, how many pronouns are there? There's infinite. Like that'd be the same meme. Like so, even if it's like not like infinite genders, which I admittedly like seems a bit more ridiculous than like infinite pronouns. It still is the same meme of like people, conservatives and a lot of people like naturally want things like in boxes and want things to be finite because that's more comfortable. So the fact that like you would say there'd be something infinite, especially something that like hasn't really like been part of like the hegemon, would makes people very uncomfortable.
But like, yeah. But wouldn't you already have to acknowledge? I don't know. I just assume that everyone that uses neopronouns is just non-binary. There's just three. Like I don't see like
Oh, they should probably use they them.
I don't know. I don't feel like that's the case. Like just because it makes your arguments harder to make, I don't think that it's necessarily like means that they should switch their pronouns.
Oh well, I mean, like if it just makes it makes the arguments hard to make, which like would make it harder to push for like our goals. So so for example, like I really want and you know this, I really want like pedos within like the LGBT like flag eventually. Because right now trans people are so fucked and I care about them more. So I don't want that optics poison to be anywhere near trans people right now. Once we get to a certain level of trans people, I feel a lot like that's what seems to be the meme with like when trans people were sort of accepted on the LGB flag or LGB tag. Gay people already had like a level of acceptance that we would consider like, hey, like now we can add on this like more radical thing. Radical not as in like like necessarily like inherently more extreme, but radical as in like to the population. But yeah, so I would do the same memes with like pedo, yeah, so that would be the reason I would like not accept like pedos because it makes the argument harder. Like you can't just brush that off. That is like important. If it makes the arguments harder, that makes it harder to actually push for our goals. And presumably you would actually like want gender abolishment, and also you want the left to succeed generally. And if you make one argument harder, you're just kind of making the whole ideology a bit harder.
Oh, but you don't have to just say they them. You can just say gender neutral pronouns. Like I don't think you have to like specifically make the argument in favor of they them and just say like a gender neutral pronoun like they them or whatever.
Wait, what do you mean?
Oh, like if you're arguing with a right winger and they say there's like infinite genders, you're like, no.
Oh, well, the way the argument would become harder is like if they bring up neopronouns.
Yeah, I guess. I don't know. I would just say they aren't genders.
Oh, they're not genders. They're a pronoun, so it would be
Yeah,
infinite
so they're
pronouns.
still not
names.
infinite.
Oh, well, they are infinite pronouns, as in like
Sure, there could
yeah.
be, but there could be infinite words in every category.
Oh yeah, but these are things like we wouldn't like argue for. So these are things we wouldn't argue for, like anything involving like a social construct. Like we wouldn't argue for like infinite words, and that like anyone can come up with like a word. And then this would be something that like everyone would have to respect in some way. Like we treat pronouns differently, mainly because of the existence of trans people, and it causing like some amount of harm to not use the proper pronoun.
I was trying to play. Okay. Okay.
You're trying to play what? You can have
I
a.
was trying to like play devil's advocate to your conservative argument or whatever. You were playing devil's advocate though, I guess.
Hmm? But yeah, no, you did very well. I haven't actually debated with you. Like I've never done a one-on-one debate, but you did very well.
Yeah, I wish I knew. Like I knew before I came in, I was pretty much gonna have to concede on optics, which sucks. Because I don't think the optics are very good.
Yeah, are you? Can you tell me some of the things like you think you did wrong there?
I probably should have prepared more. I wasn't ready for some of the stuff that you said.
Hmm?
I probably conceded too much on things. I should have just disagreed or weaseled out of it more. Like when the optic poison stuff, like I shouldn't have. I probably should have acknowledged it and just said no and just dug my heels into the ground there. Fuck it.
What about like rhetorically? Like as in like how you like any words you use?
Oh, I wasn't thinking about it too hard.
Oh, so it looks like very like weak when well first off the pauses, but that's like that's something you'll get used to over time. But you need to like remove like I feel like from your lexicon. And I don't know.
But yeah, that's true. But like my feelings aren't based on like just like feelings. Like
No, I know that, but semantically, like it comes off very poor. So instead of it, I feel like it seems like that's more of an affirmative statement, and it's weak enough that you can weasel out of it.
Okay.
It seems like, or it seems to be the case.
Yeah. Okay, I can do that. Yeah.
Okay. Because that's what you're trying to do with
Yeah. I don't. It's not like a feeling I have. It's like based on the things that I've read.
I know, but like you're basically making a weak statement that like you could weasel out of if you like need to. But it seems like fulfills that as well without coming off as like weak in the memes of like, oh, this is how I feel. Because it seems like it's more of like a intellectual like logic statement opposed to that. Yeah, I think you get the point. Yeah.
What was the specific context where feeling was used, or I feel this way was used?
Oh, I say it a bunch. I think
he says it a lot, and
yeah.
and also like the meme of just like I never say I don't know. Pipers and Synth can back me up on this. Just never say I don't know in a debate.
Yeah, it's really not. Generally, it's a pretty bad thing to do. There are some cases where like you can use "I don't know" as like a way to like make fun of the idea that somebody would know something. Like it's an absurd question to ask or something. Like how could I possibly know? But avoid it entirely.
Yeah, that'd be a different context than what we're talking about. But yeah,
you never want to look like you don't know what you're talking about. You want to look like you know a lot about what you're talking about, despite the fact that you might not. Like this is basically like the foundational principle of like ethos in rhetoric.
Yep.
Ethos is character, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, ethos is you have to look like you're really smart, and also you have the audience's best interest in mind.
Yeah, I feel like if I had prepared more, I would have been better with that. Because I just kind of like fuck it and just like walked in swinging. Yeah.
You don't really need to prepare to get a lot of elements of ethos. Like if you can show that you're relatable, then that'll show your audience that you have their best interest in mind. And if you can show that you're just like you're confident, that'll make them feel like you know what you're talking about.
Yeah, I don't know if I could do that without researching though.
Okay, yeah, I can get that. I can understand.
Yeah, I think you're a bit more humble than like me, Piper, or Synthesis. We're kind of cocky, so like that. I think that's our personalities naturally. I know it is for me, and it probably is for Synth and Piper as well. So
I grew out of it.
you got to grow back into it, buddy.
It doesn't work well in like personal relationships, though. It's the problem.
Oh,
It's well, like debating, but like,
yeah,
I don't
you can
enjoy being that way.
compartmentalize. You can compartmentalize. Like
oh, yeah, probably. I just haven't.
I believe in you, Owen.
Fuck you. You actually
Love
think
you
that was a
too.
smart thing to say, Jazz? Okay, sorry.
Sure.
I love you, Owen. No, but that was really good though.
Yeah, that was you did a very good job at being convincing there, Owen. Like I'm much more sympathetic to the position now.
Hell yeah, dude. Yeah, my main argument is that it's just not neopronouns aren't genders and they don't enforce gender roles, so they're fine. But yeah, I mean, like optics are so shit. I should have just tried to avoid that completely.
You were never going to.
Yeah, I know, but
I was never gonna let you.
That should have been the meme.
I think the Weasley thing to do would be to ask Jim if Jim has like data on it.
Yeah. I could have done that because there's no data. But I know that there's. I'd feel bad.
Yeah, well, you crush that emotion. Don't ever feel bad.
Oh, I just want to get
Being
to the
bad-
truth.
If you're
True.
being
Never
bad
feel
faith,
bad.
if you're being bad faith in a way that like preserves, if you feel like you being bad faith runs like contrary to the goal of like explaining things truthfully to people, just know that you being bad faith can create truthful beliefs in somebody, even if it's through like bad faith means.
Oh, but I don't know if I'm correct about neopronouns. Like, I wouldn't mind being like bad faith about something like immigration or whatever, because I just know I'm right. But there's no data on this. Like, I don't actually know if I'm right or wrong about neopronouns, which is why I'd feel weird going bad faith.
But by the way, even though I wouldn't have like strict like data, I would have like empirical evidence, as in like
the three people. Yeah.
Wait, but that's rhetorically effective though. Even if it's like not like and also it's some amount of evidence like that, like so like some amount of evidence that like, hey, these people are using it, clearly they think it's effective for their arguments. Stephen Crowder is a big figure, blah blah blah. Oh, I wasn't talking about the like Ferlado, Lumi, and Mythaldo. I wasn't talking about them. I was talking about the meme of like the way that conservatives like rail against like neopronouns and like use it as like a caricature.
Yeah, that makes sense. Like, I don't know. Oh, man, the two genders meme is so dumb. Like, I feel like if I was talking to someone, like, you wouldn't even have to assert that there are infinite genders. Like, you could kind of dance around that and then make fun of them for like thinking that like gender works the way that it does or whatever. Just like make it known that they don't understand anything about.
You were good at like you made me drop that argument. Like you're really good at making me drop the argument of like neopronouns like associates to like genders. I mean I didn't drop it completely because I knew I could like make the like sort of Weasley meme of like, hey, like this does it to some degree. Of like gender acceleration. This is like some amount of people use it in this way, so necessarily like if you're supporting it, you're supporting like some amount of people that are using it in that way. But you did make me drop the argument that like it would like necessitate like a gender, so that was good.
Okay.
No, I don't know if you thought you did like really poorly, but you did like really fucking well.
Okay. I don't know how I feel about it. I should be recording because I just don't know, dude.
Yeah, you got stuck some places, and like in an debate, you never want to pause that long, but like,
during the initial portion of the debate, Owen, like right when it was opening, you seemed very, very confident, and you seemed like you were doing an incredibly good job at like representing your position.
I had like 2 talking points, and then as soon as we got to optics, I was like, okay, I have to concede here pretty much.
I feel like I feel like optics is an area where you could definitely weasel out of that.
I feel like I could have as well. Like, you could like pathos, like why do we care about ethics? We need to protect the lives of the trans people in our community. Like
I would
Oh no, I would never. That would never work.
I don't
by
care
the way.
about you. I'll come
No,
here.
no.
You know, there's a bunch of soft lefties. I'll get them.
Oh,
If
I
lefties
would
already
destroy
agree with you, you wouldn't be changing their minds to become people who agree.
Oh
with
no,
you.
I just make them hate Jim. You see,
Oh,
that's
that's
all
true,
I need.
yeah.
to do.
No, I-
you tip that to you.
I would destroy that argument. I promise you.
Yeah, that one would suck. But there are ways you could like weasel out of it by just like appealing to the fact that like there's not really a way to really know this very well. It's just something we like. I'm sure we all like kind of sense that it kind of is poor optics, but it's not something we have good evidence for really. We just have sort of like reasons why. So like you could do the empiricist meme.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, sure. I don't think you could get away with that because I know exactly like why. I know empiricist flaws. Like so, I don't know if you want to play that meme, but
What are the good memes against empiricists?
you just have like okay. So first off, to even get to empiricism, like you need reason. So you could always do the meme of like if you, at least like an unsavvy like empiricist, like how do you even get to empiricism? Like do you have an empirical data for like logic? You could do that, but that's more of like a low level like meme. The real meme would be like to even understand empirical data and even to contextualize it, you actually need reason. So, do you know the main assertions of like empiricism and like rationalism? Listen.
Yeah, broadly I understand both of them. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so for the rest of the class, empiricist would be asserting that empiricist would be the chief way that we'd come to conclusions, and rationalist would be asserting the opposite. That reason would be the chief way that we'd get to conclusions. The thing is, like, everything actually centers on reason. So reason is actually how you get to, like, what even is empirical data. Reason would be the way you would contextualize empirical data. And then reason would be the way that you would apply anything involving empiricism. So that would be the main thrust of the argument. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. So even then, like in this specific context, then what kind of reasoning do we have other than just sort of like our own sort of like intuition on the matter? Like how did you reason your way to this position that it was bad optics?
Oh, the fact that conservatives are using it, and I think it's very easy to what's up?
Yeah. So do you think that there are any examples of like conservatives frequently using like bad arguments that are easy to dismiss or debunk?
Oh, yes. So it would be like a weak induction, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So even if like the thing is like and I'm sure you're aware of this. Like ultimately, like almost all reasoning we'd really ever realistically use is like induction. So like you can prove that something is like deductively fallacious because nearly everything we'd ever use would be deductively fallacious, but it would still have some inductive merit, or like any argument would use. So I would say that would have some inductive merit because the main thing that they'd be using, the main arguments they would be using in general would be like a good argument. So it's not like it's not going to prove that this is like, oh, this is actually a good argument, but it's some amount of evidence. Would you agree with that?
I would say that it is. You could say that it has some correlation there. Like conservatives using it means there's some correlation between that and like the sort of like effectiveness of an argument. But I think a lot of it has to do with like the fact that there wasn't, when that argument came about, there wasn't really a large platform for the online left, and it seems to be that the causal link seems to be that there's not really the ability to give them the counter argument, or there wasn't at the time, whereas now there kind of is.
There is, yeah, sure, there is an ability. So I'd use one of the arguments I would use would be the meme that I gave OwOwen, that infinite just seems to be very like scary to people. Like the idea that like anyone could come up with like things that would not be in some sort of like finite box, especially when it comes to like social constructs and like things that
everyone already isn't infinite, and like every single person is already like different.
Everyone's an individual.
Yeah, no, like unironically, yeah. I could have done some egoist memes.
Oh wait, yes, but not to the point where we ever have to like where we ever have to like
Okay,
use
so which
them for-
boxes would you be okay with putting people in with regards to gender?
which boxes? Just a gender.
That's not really a box, though, is it? Like, what roles would they have in there?
Oh, well, that would just be complete freedom. That'd be the thrust of the argument of gender abolition.
So
Abolition.
then there wouldn't be like a box and everyone would be like an individual. So there would be like an infinite amount, or it would be like one for every person. Everyone has a different conception of gender, right? Okay, cool. I can do this one next time.
Wait, no, there's actually a difference there between like everyone using they them and everyone using different.
Oh, it wouldn't be everyone. It would just be using the ones that you want to instead of everyone using the same.
Using the ones that you want to instead of
Yeah, it wouldn't be associated with anything. So like you wouldn't have to use they them. You could just use whatever pronouns you want, and they wouldn't be associated with anything else.
Oh, sure. So we could say like this would be fine if we skip to like the
That would be like
gender abolition part.
late.
Oh, sure. So I'm not saying it's inherently wrong. The meme would be right now, right? So in a vacuum, it's not wrong, or in certain situations, it wouldn't be wrong. In this situation, it would be.
So what have we been discussing for the past 30 minutes?
We were doing debriefs on the debate.
Okay.
Oh wait. Okay, so synth. You would say like